Now for the female panel, we welcome back tonight Clare O'Neil and Senator Sen Fierravanti-Wells. Tanya Plibersek wanted to be with us, of course, but something she couldn't avoid clashed with this time. So we welcome again Clare, the Labor member for Hotham, with a Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Laws from Monash University and honours in both. But she's also the Shadow Minister for Aged Care, about which I want to ask some questions. And Senator Sen Fierravanti-Wells actually made a 52-page submission to the Royal Commission into aged care, quality and safety. And at 23, she was a founding board member of an aged care facility in the Illawarra. She spent 4 years as the Federal Shadow Minister for Ageing, and she's one of millions with personal experience of this aged care crisis. She lost her dad from dementia, and her mother passed away last year in the nursing home that she helped establish. So thank you both for your time. Clare, if I could come to you first. So many Royal Commission reports finish up as doorstops. There are grand noises about reports going to the Governor-General, which is a bit of a procedural nonsense. But after 2 years of work, 23 public hearings, 641 witnesses and 10,000 public submissions, are we any further ahead? Clare.
Alan, I think we are, because we've got a really clear independent report that tells us that aged care is in national crisis. We know that 2/3 of people in aged care today are either malnourished or at risk of malnourishment. We know there are endemic problems with basic types of care that you would expect in a nursing home. And we know that the home care waiting lists are an absolute joke, and a lot of your viewers would be aware that you're waiting for years to get the help in the home that you need. And I think the real question for us now is that we've got a government in Canberra, led by Scott Morrison, that's cut ruthlessly into aged care. Are they going to be the party and the leaders to actually show older Australians respect and treat them with the appropriate level of credence that they deserve by fixing this system? And that's really what's on my mind at the moment.
Let me take that point. Conchetta, you made a public submission. One of the Royal Commissioners, Lynelle Briggs, described the system as broken. Her co-authored interim report was titled, awfully, Simply Neglect. Your government's thrown a couple of $100 million at the problem, but care providers say they'll need $55 billion in the next decade just on nursing homes. And as Clare said, that's before the home care system is brought up to scratch. What are your thoughts?
Well, Alan, the Royal Commission comes at the end of decades of reviews. We've seen over 20 reviews. I think what's really important, and this is what prompted me to put my submission in, given the unique experience that I had, aged care, regrettably, has always been a low-order priority. We've seen a revolving door of ministers. We have seen mistakes, but we also see a system that needs major overhaul. And this was the reason why I put forward a blueprint, which was based on the work that I did when I was the Shadow Minister. And I'm very, very pleased to see that the Royal Commission has taken up a lot of my suggestions. But the reality is, Alan, that this is not just an issue about funding. It is an issue that traverses the whole fundamental basis of the system.
But Conchetta, you do. I mean, I talked to Catherine McGregor there about the submarine deal. I mean, it's gone from $23 billion to over $200 billion. Tear that contract up, buy the submarines off the shelf, and we need $7 billion a year for aged care. Clare, I make a simple question to you. If children were treated like this, wouldn't there be national outrage?
Oh, it'd be more than national outrage, Alan. We'd be marching on the streets. We'd be in the middle of a national strike. And that's one of the things that really, I really want to pay credit to you and to Conchetta too for making this issue consistently on the top of the national agenda. It is not getting the political attention that it deserves. No. Now, we know we've got a real opportunity here with the Royal Commission report to say to the Morrison government, this matters to every Australian and we demand change, and that's got to happen now between now and the federal.
And Clare, 16% of the voting population now are over 65. 16%, it's a voting issue. Conchetta, a simple question, you know, in all of this. Why can't ageing be a wonderful reward at the end of your life rather than a punishment?
Well, Alan, it should be. We should, our aged care system, the ideal aged care system, should give older Australians and their families the care that they need wherever they need it and when they need it. But the system, as it is at the moment, is not flexible enough to deliver that. That's what they need. People want to stay at home, but they also know that as their health waxes and wanes, and this is the wording of the Royal Commission in their interim report, they need to have the system that provides that care when they need it. But they also have to have a viable system. And one of the problems that the system very much has is that the viability of providers has really been tested and has been very much tested under COVID. So
the providers, 60% of the providers are running on a deficit. I mean, Claire, if you're going to solve a problem, you first have to define it. The problem is that Australians in old age can expect neglect, malnutrition and abuse. So you have to start by funding more staff, properly trained, so that these people, they pay a hell of a lot to get in there, by the way. So,
yeah,
I mean,
they do, yeah.
Why do we have a Federal Aged Care Act, but funding at a bare minimum?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things the Royal Commission talks about is the fact that the government's essentially approached this question of how little can we get away with, how little can we spend to not get in too much political trouble here. That approach has to end. We've got an ageing population.
Yep.
We've got hundreds of thousands and in an ongoing sense, millions of Australians who deserve to be treated with dignity in our retirement. And Alan, you really put the nail on the head there with one of your comments about the people that work in aged care. We have some incredibly caring, wonderful, committed people working in aged care. There are just not enough of them. I talk to aged care workers all the time, and I'm sure Connie has the same experience. They are crushed at the end of a lot of their shifts because they know they can't provide the care that they want to provide. So it's got to start with this issue of how many carers we have to look after the people who we should be looking after in their retirement.
Let me just say to my viewers, we're talking about vets because what's happening to them is a disgrace. What's happening to the aged care community is a disgrace, and we'll be talking about this each week until we get some answers. But I just want a very quick answer from you, Concetta, because you're in government. Where does the money come from?
Well, the money comes from... It comes out of consolidated revenue. Now, the commissioners have agreed that there has to be a major overhaul of governance, plus they both say there has to be an aged care levy. But, Alan, can I take you back to the work...
Concetta, look, I will leave it here for tonight because I have run out of time. You'll be with us next week. We will be talking about it again next week, the money issue in particular. And you can argue till the cows come home. We won't do anything unless we improve the level of staffing and improve the qualifications of those staff and treat them as they should be treated. They can't be a second-rate entity. So, Claire, thank you for your time. We most probably won't talk to you next week. Tanya will be here, but we will continue this debate next week. It has to be had. I thank both of you.